Who are you?
I'm no one.
I was raised to do one thing. But I've got nothing to fight for.
Nothing will stand in our way. I will finish what you started.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it. The dark side. A Jedi. They're real.
The Force. It's calling to you. Just let it in.
Who are you?
I'm no one.
I was raised to do one thing. But I've got nothing to fight for.
Nothing will stand in our way. I will finish what you started.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it. The dark side. A Jedi. They're real.
The Force. It's calling to you. Just let it in.
Star Wars The Force Awakens opens in a couple weeks. How excited are you to bring this movie to fans?
It's been a long time carrying this baby for all of us, and I think we are all ready to go into labor. So let's get this movie out.
When did it hit you that you were actually directing this movie? Like, what was the moment?
There were so many baby steps, so it's hard to figure out where, you know, there wasn't one sort of threshold crossing. It was a lot of decisions and moments and stages along the way. But I guess the honest answer is when we were in Abu Dhabi and all the prep had come to this moment when the crew was all there, the cameras and the lights were all set up. Daisy Ridley was sitting down for her first take, and I thought, oh, here we are. We figured out what the set would look like, what her speeder would be like, what her hair design was going to be, how the wardrobe was going to look, where and when and how and what lens we were going to shoot this moment. And all the prep brought us to this moment where we're actually doing it. And I guess it was that first day of actually filming in 125-degree heat in the middle of this desert that really felt like we were making a movie.
As a lifelong fan, what were the Star Wars elements that you needed to make sure you had in this film to satisfy the fans?
Well, Larry Kasdan and I, when we started talking about what we wanted to do in this movie, it was more about a feeling than any kind of list of things that we wanted to include. But among those things in that feeling were elements of light versus dark, elements of either action or certain specific things, whether it's ships or locations, that felt like the spirit of Star Wars. And people have been trying to copy what George Lucas created since he created Star Wars. And we were lucky enough to actually inherit Star Wars, for this to be the next chapter of the saga, which meant we were allowed to actually say, well, I'd love to see lightsabers, and how can you make a Star Wars movie without lightsabers? What's a Star Wars movie without an X-Wing or a TIE fighter or a Star Destroyer? And you can sort of list these things. And someone I work with was saying how Star Wars is a bit like a Western, where there are certain tenets. It's a different story, a different world, a different moral, a different narrative, but it's probably gonna have horses. It's probably gonna have cowboys. There might be some Native Americans. It's probably gonna be a saloon. There might be a bank. There might be a stagecoach. There are just certain things, good guys, bad guys. It was a little bit like needing to know, okay, if we're telling a story in this genre, in this Star Wars genre, what are certain things that feel like essential elements? But once we had those things, everything was serving the story. Who are these new characters? Who are we meeting we've never met before? What is their story? Why is it relevant? Why are we telling a story at all in this universe? And that was, I think, the most fun we had.
Okay. How did you go about ensuring that the movie would be relatable to a whole new generation of fans?
Well, the key to this movie was not any of the accoutrements or props or ships or locales. It was all about who is the story about. And when Larry Kasdan and I began writing the script, that was the fundamental question. We would make ourselves tell each other the story. This is a story about a young woman this story about a young man who, tell the story. And it's amazing how that is sort of a litmus test for something that either works or not, because you can't say it's a story about really cool gadgets. It's a story about spaceships that fly. None of that will work. It's a story about someone who, it's about the heart and soul of the characters. So that was the thing that we focused on, trying to figure out what makes the story compelling for us, and hope that if we can look each other in the eye and say, I love that, that really works, that's getting me excited, then other people might feel it too.
Talk about the importance of music in this film.
When I look at the list of things, let me start over. When I think of the things that George Lucas did and got right, got perfectly in that first movie, it is so long and stunning to think of those things. But nothing on that list is more important than the music. That's not to say there aren't things that are as important, but there's nothing more important. And what John Williams did, his gift to Star Wars and to fans, it is, you can't oversell the importance of what he does. And to know that he was coming back to create a score for The Force Awakens was as exciting as any other aspect of working on this movie from the very first discussion I had with Kathy Kennedy. To be on the stage when John Williams conducted the main titles, which of course is familiar to everyone who knows Star Wars, that was incredible. But then to watch him conduct and hear the orchestra play so beautifully the end titles, the almost 8-minute long end titles, what was incredible about that was it starts the way it always starts, but then it dovetails into these themes, Rey's theme, the Resistance theme, Kylo Ren's theme, these incredible cues that we had become accustomed to over the months of doing post-production that were so beautiful and soaring and emotional and powerful, and somehow perfectly integrated with the score and the music that we know, the Force theme, Leia's theme. He just, like no one else, is able to take what we know and do something brand new and somehow allow them to coexist. And I realized that's what we were trying to do all along.